Coming to the garage, gonna see what Grayson's up to. Are you?
Hey,
what?
what's up, man?
Are you pretending to drive the Goblin right now?
No, I'm just making sure stuff's mounted down well and in place.
So you weren't just pretending to drive it all by yourself?
No, you're insane.
Alone in the garage?
No, I'm no.
Okay, well, we need to go and drop the engine in today.
Yeah, so we need to drop the engine in. We should probably also try to get the seats in and finish some of the little things that we got to do in the car. So
okay, let's get to it.
Let's get going. I don't know what you guys thought about that stupid little skit, but we were kind of at the point where we are going insane with this build. It has been quite a while since we actually touched this car, and there's a couple reasons why. So let me go ahead and show you guys where we were at and what we still have to do. So last time we kind of finished mounting most of the front end, and we ran into a couple issues with like the tie rods here. They weren't long enough, so it was just towed out on both sides. So that's something that we have to address. And then we still have a couple other issues with the car. We did get the seats in last time, but they are not fully mounted. We need to get those mounted. And then I'm still waiting on the wiring harness. We sent the wiring harness off in October. It is now March. So it's been quite a while. That's like the biggest thing we've been waiting on. But we've kind of reached the point that we just need to finish everything that we can and then put the wiring harness in last. What we need to do today is the big thing, the scary thing that I haven't wanted to touch is this. This is the new transmission that we bought from DF Goblin, and we need to take off the old F35 transmission and replace it with the new F23 transmission. So I'm not sure if they fully mount up correctly. I don't know if they just line up, if it's like a easy swap. We're probably gonna find that out today and see how far we can get. If we can get the transmission swapped, we can mount the motor in the car. The only downside is we can't do a test drive or even like a first start without the wiring harness. So we're gonna get as far as we can today. But before we do start this video, be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any more of this build. This has been probably the most fun build that we've done on the channel so far, and it's probably going to be the most fun build after it's done as well. Not only for us, but for you too. It is just such an insane car. So be sure to leave a like on the video and comment and subscribe so you don't miss any of this. Let's go ahead and get started. Ow! Ah! I'm gonna go through break everything. Okay, so what we have to do is you have to remove the old transmission off of the motor and put the new transmission on. Now the reason why we're doing this is, if you guys remember when we picked up the Cobalt, is the transmission basically gave out. I don't know if the transmission's blown necessarily, or if it's just leaking, or if it's just a clutch, or what, but I decided let's go ahead and do a whole new transmission because it was like 500 bucks. Anyway, so that's what we're struggling with now, is removing the old transmission, getting all of the bolts off, and then it should just mount up with the brand new trans. We'll see though.
Am I stupid?
Yeah.
We're professionals.
Definitely do this at home.
Try this at home, kids.
Unsupervised. This is gonna like drop, so you better be like holding the whole trans with your whole might of and will. There you go, it's off, okay. Lift it onto the cart. Need help?
Oh, I'm just trying to get it out, and it's the...
Oh, watch out, you're on a cable here. I need to lift the lead pressure. Okay, now you should be fine.
Okay.
Help me out. Ooh. So here's the stupid little spacer. Mine is actually like broken.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
There's a hole in the trans.
There's a hole in the trans.
I've
got squirrels on my pants.
There's a
hole in the trans.
There is a hole in the trans.
And then this spacer's. So this thing is supposed to go, well, I can't even tell right now. It's like, what? I think this is missing a piece.
Or is it just broken in half?
No, Oh, it might just be broken in half. Yeah, just broken right in half.
Yeah, there's definitely a hole in the trans.
Yeah, for sure. This is a hard piece to get. But yeah, that's not supposed to be like that. That's not supposed to be cracked there. This is hella warped. And then this is broken for sure. So yeah, this is not good. This might have been the cause of most of our problems right here, was actually this. I don't know where it was leaking from though. It's probably this seam right here where it was cracked. That's why we're replacing this. For anyone that's like, the F-35 is a better trans. I don't know who actually says that, but if you think the F-35 is better trans, part of the reason why we're replacing it is because of this. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing mounted back up, or at least a new one. I don't know if we need a new one of these though, so we're gonna take a minute and figure out what is going on with this. Okay, so we figured some stuff out. We got the old transmission off, and we have good news and bad news, mainly bad news. Bad news is, this piece, which we need for the F-23 transmission, is broken. It is completely snapped in two, warped, bent, not salvageable. Some more bad news is this is a hard part to get. GM discontinued this piece because it is only a spacer, only used on Cobalts, which they don't make anymore. And so this is a hard piece to get, even though it's a flat piece of steel. Good news is there is a part supplier, a used part supplier in Dallas that should have this part. So we're gonna try to go get that from them. Bad news is it's 7 p.m. on a Saturday and we don't have any time today to go get it because they're not open. Basically, we found a few problems. This does have a big hole in it, as you can see right here. That's not supposed to look like that. This isn't supposed to look like this. So we've kind of made the decision we can't put the new transmission on tonight. So we're just gonna pause right now and we will pick this back up once we have this part back in hand and we can put it back on the transmission. So I will see you guys in a couple of days. Okay, so we finally got the last piece that we've been waiting on. This is the piece we've been waiting on. It is the spacer plate. It's a transaxle spacer plate. And the reason why this took so long is because we had to make it. I actually had to take designs off of the broken one. As you can see, this is what mine looked like, and this is what it's supposed to look like. So I had to take designs off of this and a trace that someone made for me off of theirs. And I had to throw it into CAD and design this. Now, this wasn't perfect. My CAD design skills are somewhat rusty, and so we did have to modify a couple of the holes a little bit, but it's gonna work. We're gonna go ahead and put this on and get the transmission finally mounted up to the motor today. Okay, where I just put these bolts. Okay, so after literal blood and sweat, not too many tears except from Logan, we got the new transmission onto the car, and let's just say that was way harder than we thought. I knew it was going to be harder, but I didn't know it was going to be as hard because we actually had to like trim down a piece of the trans. I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, you idiots, you didn't have to do that, but I think we did. So let me show you what happened. So here's the trans. As you can tell, it's like the newest part of the entire motor. But if you're looking at it, right here, there's an area where a guide screws in for your transmission cables. Basically, it would run right up here to here. You don't need that, or at least I don't think you need that in a DF Goblin, because I think the transmission guides are on the frame, or you just don't need them. So basically, we went ahead and unscrewed it, and then we had to trim this because of the water pump that we have, or whatever this is, this reservoir here. It was contacting it. In fact, it's still kind of contacting it. We're gonna kind of monitor that and see how it goes. But we have the transmission connected. The next step is really bolting this up to the motor. We're probably not gonna do that right now because this took way longer than we thought. So what we're gonna do, set the camera down, come back later, and mount the engine and transmission up and prepare it for the first start. We're finally getting to the wiring harness. It came in finally, so we are going to start putting it in today, start routing all the wires. I don't know how far we're gonna get. We're gonna try to get all of the wiring harness in so that all we have really left to do is all the little bits and then put the motor back in. So we're really close to a first start. That should be here soon. But today we're doing the wiring, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's the harness. We sent it off to DF Goblin and they reworked the whole thing. It's really nicely wrapped now and it's very clear where everything goes. It's all labeled to where the stuff goes in the front of the car and then also in the back of the car, which goes to the ECU and stuff like that. So we're gonna start with the front, kind of work our way to the back. We're probably not gonna do the engine harness today because they didn't rework the engine harness for me. So I gotta go in and kind of nitpick that harness. So that's what we're gonna start working on now, and then we will get it all routed up here and start working on the back.
Are you ready to watch me get completely confused? It's time to put in the wiring harness.
I got a thing done.
We got this bolted in, but look how there is no room under there. That sucks.
Grayson, what are you working on?
I have no idea. I've undone this and redone it like 7 times. I think I finally got this routed properly. Like this is kind of supposed to go like underneath here, and then these kind of route here. I still have no idea where this wire goes, and this wire's new. I just found this, so I don't know where this goes either. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, is this side while he's been working on that side. We're closer, but this is way more confusing than I thought it was gonna be. I know where all the plugs go, it's just a matter of how they're supposed to get there. Well, okay, that's not true. I don't know where these two go, but it's a matter of how they're supposed to get there, and then I think we need to relocate this to here so it would fit, and so this has been very interesting so far. But we're gonna keep rolling, keep moving, try to get all of this harness done tonight, and then we'll probably come back another time and do the engine harness. So we're about to run the positive cable for the battery all the way to the back of the car.
And what did we just finish doing?
I don't know if, I would say we finished it, but like,
we got the front done.
We got the front done. There's still some loose ends that we need to tie up that I think will become clear once we route everything else. Like there's some stuff up here that I'm not super clear on, but we're just gonna kind of keep moving, and it should make itself clear as we like keep installing stuff. So after that, it's a little bit of cable management. We need to tidy everything up, tie it down. We'll be good. So we're getting closer. We're just gonna keep going. So this is like very tedious work. And so this is how far we've gotten. It doesn't look like a lot, but this is quite a bit. So it's pretty late. We're gonna come back tomorrow and finish the engine harness as well as some of this. So I'll check back in with you guys tomorrow. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure where we left off or where we're at. It's been kind of a chaotic couple of days, but I'm back working on the wiring harness. Logan is working on getting the engine kind of buttoned up with the coolant hoses and coolant lines, but I want to show you what is going on with the wiring harness. So last thing I think that we did on camera was we ran the harness through the chassis and everywhere it needed to go in the front. However, the engine harness still had some issues. They didn't rework the engine harness. And my engine harness looked pretty bad because the previous owner installed something called a watt box, which is this. It is a $270 little box. And you have to wire into your engine harness, and basically it allows you to do launch control, no lift shifts, and a couple other things like rev matching and whatever. I don't want to go through the process of rehooking that back up, so I had to remove it from the harness, and now I got to clean the harness back up and put everything back together. So what I've been doing for the past couple of days is I've been removing all of the electrical tape that's been on here for however many years that has like crusted and gotten greasy and stuck to the wiring harness. Now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is tidy everything back up, rewrap it, and recover it in this heat shielding, and so it looks really pretty and is really easy to follow. That's basically what I'm gonna do for the next couple of hours, and then we'll try to get it hooked up back to the motor, so everything's ready to put in as soon as we get the final pieces coming in here soon. Anyway, so now that we have a new transmission mounted up to the motor, it is actually time to put the motor in. And I'm realizing now that it's facing the wrong direction. The supercharger needs to be pointing that way. So we're gonna turn the motor around and basically just kind of put it in the car the same way that it came out of that one, which is moving the motor in here and then just bolting it up. So fairly straightforward, should be easier to put the motor and trans in the car than it was to put the trans onto the motor. So hopefully this doesn't take us too long, then we can start hooking things up and figuring out where everything needs to go. Let's go ahead and get started. Shift before sitting this year. Okay, as you can see, we got the motor in after a lot of trial and error. The videos that actually you follow to build this thing, it's like they just bolted up, no problem. And it is never that easy, but we finally got it. We got 3 bolts in on that side, 2 bolts in on this side, we need 1 more on this side, but overall it is in. It's still on jack stands, no huge damage to the frame, some minor scratches, but I call that a win considering how snug this is in here. But overall it's looking pretty good. As you see, we still need to put the headers back on. We still need to clean this up, but we're gonna make sure it actually starts and runs still before we take this off and make it look pretty, because I'd hate to spend a lot of time making it look pretty and it doesn't even start. Anyway, that's kind of where we're at. There are still a couple items we need to address. Since we went to an F23 transmission, this is the shifter mechanism. As you can see, it goes donk against the frame there. We need to trim this down by about half, I'd say, probably right around that line there. And so whenever we shift into first gear, it doesn't go donk against the frame and doesn't let us get into first. But we need to do that. We need to hook up all of the coolant lines, the fuel lines, the wiring harness, pretty much everything for the motor we need to hook up now. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and start doing. We need to also put the subframe on, which is also kind of next, as well as as you can see, we're missing the subframe transmission and engine mounts. We need to move that from the old trans to the new trans. So that is technically next. Let's go ahead and get started on that.
Does it go through one of those transmission bolts?
No.
While Grayson is trying to figure out what that wiring harness mess looks like, I'm gonna go and throw the mirrors on. Oh, these are actually kind of sick.
Yeah.
You seen them?
Yeah.
No problems at all. Ooh. There it is in all of its glory.
What are you doing over here?
I'm looking over 4 pages of wiring diagrams, looking at the colors of the wires on the wiring diagrams and the amount of the wires going to each connector, and lining that up with our connectors here and labeling them, and also labeling where they go on the engine so we can just plug everything in.
Exciting.
I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of like 20 connectors, I'm gonna guess. So now it's your turn to help. Okay, so we went ahead and put down the camera for a few hours to just catch up and do all the little nitty-gritty stuff that's really hard to show on camera, and also stuff that you don't really want to see us doing because of how intricate it is. But I will explain what we did. So we hooked up some vacuum lines running to the front end. We still need to finish hooking up the brakes, but we're gonna do that later because it's not required for first start. And we mounted a heat exchanger right down there with a fan. We forgot to do this early on, so I had to do it later, and it was much harder because this whole shroud is in the way. So if you're building a supercharge like I am, do the heat exchanger before you put this front piece on. It says nowhere in the videos that you have to do that. Even in the supercharger engine prep, nowhere does it say you have to do that. I kind of had to just figure it out. So with that, we ran the white pipes to the back for the heat exchanger, which coolant's gonna run through. We also wired up the whole motor. We figured out where everything's supposed to go, and we got everything wired up that needs to be wired up. So there are a couple things that we do need to adjust. Like there's this piece here, which I'm not entirely sure what it is yet, but I think my theory is, since it's on the transmission, is that it is either the tachometer or speedometer, or on the very small chance it's like a reverse light or something, but that's like 1% chance in my opinion. So that's what that is. Our connector for it's broken. I need to fix it. That's why the little hat's on it, is it tells me how to fix it. We have done pretty much everything in this general region here. We've run coolant lines, we've run vacuum lines. The only thing we haven't run is this coolant line right here because we're actually missing a splice. Either we lost it or DF didn't give it to us. More likely we lost it. We've lost a couple things so far, and that's probably one of them. But we need to finish running that. We need to finish running this line right here, and we need to figure out where this goes. This might just be a cap or a breather. I'm not entirely sure yet. We've run the main positive cable. We've run the grounds. We've run pretty much everything you need to run. Now, there wasn't much guide for this. In fact, we weren't really supposed to take a lot of this wiring off, but we did. We got a little excited in the disassembly, and so that's kind of what you get. So, what I'm gonna do is, in a future video for if you're actually looking to build a DF Goblin yourself, specifically a supercharge, I'm gonna break down, I'm gonna do a full analysis of where every wire goes, where every hose goes, so that way you don't have to deal with what we had to deal with. But I'm gonna do that once I'm for sure where everything goes. But for now, basically we just got everything hooked up to enough to get a first start. Now the next step is to just hook up the battery, see if it keys on. If it doesn't, that means either there's like a ground or something that's not hooked up, or a positive that's not hooked up correctly, or the battery's dead, which means we need to jump it. If it catches on fire, that means a positive's not hooked up correctly and we messed up the wiring. In which case, either way, we need to redo something. If it just keys on and all the systems kind of power up, then we are really looking good for a first start. We just need to get the coolant lines hooked up. So let's go ahead and see if the key on works. Look at that, dude. Engine power reduced, that's fine. Give me more codes. Brake fluid, yes, I know it's empty. Low cool. Good Lord. All right, yeah, I know. Engine power reduced. Okay, so that's a good sign. That's actually really good. Nothing caught on fire. That is a little weird that that thing just constantly turns on. I don't think it's really supposed to do that.
What is that?
It's the heat exchanger pump. Maybe it's supposed to turn on. Maybe it's supposed to just be running. I don't know what would make it do that.
Okay,
it's just a plug.
But good thing. Car didn't catch on fire.
Didn't catch on fire.
And the dash lit up.
The dash displayed, which means I believe this is hooked up correctly. Or well, maybe not this. This. Something's hooked up right. The engine harness, maybe not fully yet. It did say engine power reduced, which I'll look at that code, but I'm assuming that that means it thinks something's wrong. Like, I don't know, a MAF sensor is not plugged in, doesn't have any coolant, doesn't have any brake fluid. And so it's like, I think it's like limp moding itself.
Yeah, we don't have, what is it? The O2 sensor on.
Yeah, so I think that like there's a lot of, well, it shouldn't, O2 sensor maybe not be that bad, but like overall, I think that's a good sign that it keyed on, nothing caught on fire. So we're really close to a first start, but we have been going for almost 10 hours now. We've been doing this since 12 p.m. lunch, and it is now 10 p.m. And so we're done for the night. We will come back. This video is gonna be super chaotic because we have filmed this over multiple days, over multiple weeks. But I think it's gonna be worth it because it's gonna be the first start video and it's gonna be super cool. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be back and it should be, fingers crossed, the first start. So I have my minions working back there. We are currently finishing up the last things we need to do to start the car. Logan went ahead and basically routed this coolant line here, which isn't exactly the correct one, but it's gonna work for now, and we're gonna go back later and replace it. We kind of messed up and cut the coolant line that we were supposed to use there because we thought it went somewhere else. So we're doing what we can now just to get the car started, and I'll go back later once I know everything runs and starts. Logan is hooking up the fuel pump right now. Cameron is working on getting the old oil filter out, and I'm gonna drain the old oil. Basically, we just want to do an oil change, make sure this thing has fresh oil in it, because this oil's been sitting for a minute, and so I think it's just good to kind of cycle some oil through. After that, we just got to put the headers back on, and we're pretty much ready for a first start. So let's go ahead and get all that done, and hopefully Fingers crossed, we do first start today. Did you look at the you good?
Man, that's the third time this week.
Watch me hit my head on the other one now.
So I went ahead and drained the oil. One of my concerns is this is technically a rebuilt motor, I think. It didn't blow up, but the previous owner said that they rebuilt it. So that's always hit or miss whenever you can't really confirm who built it or the quality of how they built it. And so basically I wanted to drain the oil and see if there were any metal shavings or if there was any coolant leaking into the oil. At first I got a little concerned because I thought I saw like some particulate and stuff in the oil. But I think that that's from the oil pan and not from the oil itself, or they're just small bubbles. I haven't seen anything that would indicate a issue inside the motor. One thing that I did is I got a really strong neodymium magnet, which is this. I put it inside this baggie here and I ran it through the oil to see if any metal particulate would stick to this from inside the motor. So basically if there is something wrong where like metal is in the oil, it would have stuck to the magnet and therefore I would have seen it, and so therefore since there's nothing stuck to it, it kind of indicates that nothing's wrong with the motor, which is a really good sign. And I did it in a little baggie so that way I know for sure that my magnet doesn't get all sticky and a bunch of metal and oil stick to it. So anyway, really good sign. That means we probably really didn't need to do an oil change, but I wouldn't have known it unless I drained the oil. So I think it's good that we're doing one anyway, plus this has been sitting for a minute. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this up. I'm gonna let this sit and we should be able to get this thing started because that was a good sign.
You're gonna take your clothes off?
I am. This is now becoming OnlyFans channel, but not for me, for cameras. OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Check the torque you said.
Little treat for you. Little example of what GM was thinking whenever they decided to go
They were on cocaine.
and put the oil filter all the way back up in there, right under the supercharger.
This is a prime example of why mechanics hate engineers. This war will not end anytime soon. So we're back, we've done a bunch of work. We hooked up fuel lines, we hooked up vacuum lines, we ran coolant through it. I hooked up the heat exchanger in the front. We have done a bunch of stuff so that we're prepared for the first start. Now, I also put the headers back on temporarily so we can do a first start. Fingers crossed this works. Nothing ever works the first time, ever, and especially with me. So we're gonna, fingers crossed it works. God willing, this thing's gonna start and run. And that means we can continue on, put it all together, get it on its wheels, and start driving. So let's go ahead and attempt a first start. I'm really nervous, but I'm also really excited. Let's go. Why?
Give it some gas.
Okay, something's not right.
Oh my God!
Fine.
Yes!
Let's go, dude.
Oh my gosh!
Why'd it die though? Why? That's improvement, but why'd it die?
Yo!
What?
That scared me. I was not expecting that.
Dude.
Holy
Yes! Nice!
Alright. Wow, that smelled bad, dude. Alright.
I pooped myself a little bit.
I'm tempted to like throw the muffler on just because, like, I'm a little concerned that this O2 sensor is a little too close to the opening. Was the phone recording that too?
Yep.
Alright, let's do it one more time.
Okay.
Why? What happened there? No gas? So we were able to get the first start. but it didn't run. So we haven't got the first run really yet. We got the first start, but we're thinking that it's low fuel pressure. So we're just running the fuel pump here for a second, priming it as much as possible and before we run it. So the other option is like this relay is busted. I don't think it is, but let's go ahead and try again and see if it works this time. We've tested a few things. None of them have seemed to work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna consult the forum. We're gonna go onto the DF Kit Car forum and look through first start issues that other people have had to see if someone else has had the same issue and found a way to solve this same issue. So, and then also we'll probably look at like just Chevy Cobalts having this starting issue. The main thing is this thing is a drive-by-wire system. It could be as simple as like a ground isn't connected fully or properly, that it just isn't working well. It could be my fuel pump is kind of not dead, but getting there. It could be the relay. It could be about a million different things on why this thing isn't starting. So we're all gonna do some research. We're gonna come back with clearer heads and hopefully get this thing going.
So we think it might be a MAF issue. So we're putting on the donor intake and MAF, and we're gonna give that a shot and see what that does.
Ready?
Yep. Maybe switch. Let's switch them.
Yep.
Maybe. Well, good thing is that that made a different noise.
Yeah, worse noise. Off and it kept going. So that's fine. Remember when I said there's oil on the gasket?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
It worked.
It worked.
It worked.
It was the MAF sensor, dude. Cameron! Woo! Yeah! I did it! The least experienced one out of all of us when working on cars figured out what it was.
Good job,
I've been here
Cameron.
for 2 days.
Dude, it worked.
Oh. I mean, it was like smoking, but that's okay. Still smoking. Whew, it's fumey in here, dude. Now I see why they said do it in a well-ventilated area. No way that just worked. No way. Look, this looks goofy as heck, but we'll fix it. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Cool. Well, on that note, that's the end of the video. We have got it started. The next video will be us hopefully getting everything fully hooked up. Like we still need to hook up the transmission, subframe on, axles in, wheels on, and like we're good to drive. So theoretically, as long as it starts like it just did, we'll be good. We also need to kind of troubleshoot this because this looks goofy as heck and terrible. So we're gonna work on fixing that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting this build. It has meant so much to me that you guys are enjoying watching this and that you're liking the process as much as potentially actually just driving the car. So thank you guys, it means the world to me. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Vamos,
Wow, we were.
Oh, it was.
Very nice.
Friend listening to him, Jim.